All right. Well, I've never actually listened to this podcast before, so what are the rules? Can I?
You can say
have
whatever the
some
hell you
language
want.
fly?
You can say whatever the hell
I want.
you want.
Oh,
It's all up to you.
That was one of the biggest flaws we used to have. Was like we used to think like we should censor ourselves.
Yeah, because that was me who kind of directed that. I was like thinking about my future, but I don't give a fuck.
right.
No,
No, it's best uncensored. Yeah.
I believe so.
Whereas here I am, the Michigan man. If anyone catches wind of this, but,
There you go.
You see Lawson's comment on the last video about Grant?
I didn't. What did
He
say?
added and said, admissions, get him out of your
Really?
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
funny.
Yeah.
That's good.
that's disrespectful.
Well, welcome back to Fellas in the Basement, episode 2. Special guest, as announced, is Alex Birmingham. Welcome.
Here.
Very excited about that. And return,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Ezra Dillabaugh. How are you guys doing?
Great.
I'm feeling fantastic. I saw that you guys were making your return. I thought your marketing plan was pretty good, but you kept putting 6, 11, whatever.
See,
And I was like, I wonder what they're going to release
was that
20 days
about?
ago.
so, yeah, we're not really sure. We were just,
That was on me.
The months of
Yeah,
the
it's
year.
like-
yeah, they can be
go-
tough.
Yeah, June, then July.
But so we noticed that on like the 4th or 5th post, went back and changed all of them. We're like, really hope that nobody noticed
Yeah,
that, but
yeah, no
somebody
idea,
obviously
yeah, but-
did.
Yeah, and then I thought about it. I've wanted to do a podcast for a couple of years. Probably make one when I'm older. So I figured,
Yeah,
let's
awesome.
do it. Let's jump on here.
Let's do it.
Let's
Test run.
see what you guys are good for. Yeah.
Right. So this is all about you. We're gonna get started.
Yeah.
Talk about a couple things before we get into your philosophies of life.
Sure.
Growing up, you grew up in Bedford, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Born in Toledo?
Born in Toledo Hospital,
Toledo Hospital.
June 24th, 2004. Day the world changed.
That's true. That's true.
For me.
Graduate of Bedford High School,
Mhm.
as we all are
Yeah.
this year. And you're going to U of M.
That is correct.
And U of M. What are you studying at U of M?
Probably physics.
Physics.
So I might do a little bit of that stuff. We'll see.
That sounds good.
Smart man.
And Ezra, you're going to Toledo?
Toledo, business.
Honors
but-
College, correct?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I don't know what that really means in college, but
That means you're smart, I guess.
I don't know. Yeah. And
I don't know if you're smart, but
Yeah.
Real
I get
smart.
good grades, so.
yeah.
Smart cookie. That's what I like to say.
Mm.
All right, we're gonna do some would you rather questions to get to know everybody. If you want to participate
Okay.
as well,
Yeah.
so I'm just gonna ask. We'll start with Alex, and then go. Okay.
I like this.
Are you not participating?
I'm not gonna participate
Alright. Okay.
unless you want me
Too
to.
Hollywood for us, I
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
No,
it's-
no.
Oh.
You made the decision. Don't. Just don't even bother.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it.
No, don't even bother.
That was my instinct to say no. That's fair. I won't. First question: would you rather go into the past and meet your ancestors, or go into the future and meet your great great grandchildren? Classic.
It's like Mr. Ferguson type of question,
Classic question.
Probably the future, because we know more about the past and the future, so it'd be interesting to see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Honestly, the future. I don't really care much about the past. Future.
Future 3 for 3.
Why even
Love to
bother,
hear.
Yeah.
I'd say I do find just right here. That's my
Yeah.
answer.
Okay. Second one. This is a good one. Would you rather have more time or more money?
More time.
Time. Time is awesome.
Time is that's an easy one as
Time.
well.
You can do it.
I'm going to talk a lot about time today.
Yes, time is
I'm
a
big
big
on
one.
time.
Would you rather win the lottery or live twice as long? Same kind of question.
Same question. I'll do twice as long, I
Twice
think.
as long. Yep.
Well, you know what, actually?
It could be
How much on the lottery?
Let's say a big pot, 400 million.
Do you get to know how long you live, so you
That's
know
a
your
good, that's a good
lifespan?
question too.
That's a good question.
Because if you live to 30, then you're double
Right.
Yeah.
60.
Right.
So that's, I'd say no.
I'd
You don't
say-
get to know that. It's just
So you
chance.
don't know? Okay.
You don't know how long you. Yeah.
I think I'll actually take the lottery, just because, the big thing about money, why is money so good, is because it's freedom, It's like I can use my time more effectively with all that extra money laying around,
Yeah.
as opposed to, having to work 50 hours a week or whatever. So.
Right. Right.
I would also say lottery, but because if you're living 80 years, a 160-year-old,
Yeah. You.
what if you
Yeah.
really can't do anything?
At that point, what are you even doing?
You outlive everybody. It's just.
It's
yeah.
just cool to say.
At age 110, you gotta make a whole new set of friends and stuff because all your old ones died.
Yeah.
I want to say money, but I think I'm still going to go time.
Still gonna go time.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like
Well, because the tough part of that question is you don't know how long you're originally going to
Yeah.
live for.
Say it is 150 years though. Like, think about 150 years ago from now, like,
How much?
Civil War, basically. It's like, a lot will change, you know?
Yes.
And you might not like it either.
Right.
Oh well, I like my chances.
Alright, it's fine. It's not gonna happen, so you don't really need to worry about it.
This is a good one. Would you feel worse if no one showed up to your wedding or to your funeral?
It's light.
Ooh.
It's easy.
Yeah.
Funeral.
Funeral.
Well, you wouldn't really feel anything at all if no one showed up to your funeral.
Well, say you can look down.
Yeah, like funeral.
Yeah, probably funeral. 'Cause it's a lot further into your life, and, you know.
You'd be content if no one showed up to your wedding.
No, I said, would you
Not
feel, what
content.
would you feel worse about? It's
Right,
like, you're gonna
okay.
feel bad on either of them.
Yeah.
You make a lot more connections by the time you're dead, but
That's
instead
true.
of the time you're
That's true.
Right.
married.
That's true.
Mhm.
That's true. I like this one here. Would you rather meet George Washington or the current president?
Is that a serious
Joe.
question?
That's
Joe?
right here. Good old Joe. Who'd you
No,
rather meet?
Michigan University, I support Joe Biden and all measures he's taken.
There you go. Love that.
Combating the coronavirus.
Love that. We're gonna move on. The next one. Sorry I asked that.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
Let's see. How about this one? Would you rather explore space or the ocean?
What they say, like 5 to 10% of the ocean is actually explored.
Yeah.
You're a big NASA guy.
Yeah, but like space though, you know,
I like space.
planets,
Space.
Planets are cool.
black holes, stars.
Yeah.
Those are a lot cooler
I would
than
say
like
ocean.
anything else.
I'd say ocean too.
Ocean.
What's in the ocean that you guys?
You don't
are so
know.
We don't
concerned
know.
about?
That's
Yeah,
why
you
it's-
don't know. That's
There's a
good
theory
point.
that aliens they actually come from the ocean.
I can see.
Bullshit. It's not true.
95% of the ocean though unexplored.
How much is it? How much is space has been explored?
Literally like
Little estimate.
an infinitely small amount.
Yeah.
Like we couldn't even put a number on it because it's
So,
impossible.
what's better odds of aliens coming from space? Or whatever?
Well, that's what the Fermi paradox is all about.
Okay.
You want to explain
I
that?
don't-
You want to explain
I
that to
don't know
the
what
the
that
audience?
is.
Elaborate.
Well, a scientist in the 1900s named Enrico Fermi did basically a math thing on all the habitable planets in the universe, right? And he determined that that there should be about like 100,000 alien civilizations in the Milky Way. And so the question is like, why don't we see any of them? And so
Right.
that's the Fermi paradox: is where are they?
What does that have to do with the ocean?
Because that could be a potential solution to it. It's like, okay, so the aliens aren't coming from out there. So just like how you said, are they more likely to come from space or the ocean? Well, if they're in space, maybe they can't actually find us, you know? So maybe the ocean is the only way that they could actually get to us.
And
Do you think there's aliens on the ocean?
No.
Okay.
No.
Who said that?
What?
Was that like something that was actually said by someone?
He said that that's a theory.
Is it a theory? That's what it.
It's a paradox.
It's a paradox.
I could believe it.
No, you saying that aliens come from the ocean.
I said that aliens come from
You
the
said
ocean.
that. Okay.
But he doesn't actually believe
I don't
it.
believe it, though.
It's
but
just a theory.
it's an
Do you
idea.
believe in aliens?
There you go.
Well, you know, this is the Fermi paradox. I say I'm not going to believe it until I see it.
So you don't.
So I don't. Because it's like,
That's lame.
That's what believing's about.
Yeah.
You don't see God,
Belief.
but you still believe in it.
well, you see the effects of God though if you want to believe in him. Like,
Okay.
you're not just going to believe in him and believe that he doesn't do anything.
So there's no effects of aliens, you would say?
Well, I mean, there's obviously like Roswell and all that shit, but do we really know? No.
You don't really know about God.
God, yeah.
Like, I feel like a lot of it is.
Who said I believe in God?
You said that.
I was gonna ask
You
you.
said that multiple times.
How long ago did I say that?
I don't know. You're
Do
changing
you-
man now.
My mind changes constantly.
Do you
on
believe
these
in God?
things. What do you call God?
A higher power.
No, I think I'd say I believe in a lower power.
Interesting.
Like from the ocean.
There you go.
No,
Interesting.
well, God, if we're gonna start right now, then we're gonna
Segueing
start
into-
right now.
We're
I mean,
gonna-
that's what I'm saying. Like if we're gonna do this, then we're
Go ahead.
doing it.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're dropping the would you rather. Let's
Al's
go.
religion is
Yeah. So
very interesting.
so you know,
Let's start.
yeah, I'm a syncretic, which means that I take stuff from all different religions and philosophies and try to figure out what the best parts of them are. And so, a while ago, I was raised for 16 years of my life Christian, and I was Christian a pretty good amount. I believe pretty strongly in it. But being a man of science, I started to have some issues with it, and so I strayed ways a little bit from it. But when I'm thinking about God, where I started was Buddhism, and then into Taoism later. And what these religions are teaching us is that reality is, you don't actually exist. Like, as people, you don't actually exist. The self is not real. And here's why. What you view as like yourself, like this is my body, this is my mind, that's all just a creation of stimuli that comes in from the outside world, right? So like your eyes see things, your ears hear things, you feel things. But like, there's actually no separate entity between you and the rest of the universe. And knowing this, it's called unitive awareness. That's a term for you. Knowing this, I kind of came to the conclusion that, especially since so much of modern day Christianity like was nothing that Jesus actually talked about, that was part of the thing with me, that when people ask me, like, am I a Christian, like, not exactly, if what you mean by Christian is like what Christians are today, you know, because I try to keep it a little tighter to what Jesus was actually talking about. And what he talked about was this understanding that you can change the world through how you choose to perceive it, because there's no barrier between you and the rest of the universe, and so you kind of are the universe and everyone else is you, and that's what I call God, is like that the total plane of consciousness that surrounds everything.
Wow. That's
Any
I don't
comments?
know what to
Any
say.
questions?
I don't know what to say.
that's
to that.
deep, and I think I did follow a little bit of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I 100% I understand where you're coming from of saying that Christianity today doesn't really reflect what Jesus
that's
taught.
what like Jordan Peterson says this all the time. I listen to a lot of Jordan Peterson.
Oh yeah.
And he always says, what you believe is best told by your actions, right? So like people, I've known so many people over the years who like say like, oh, I believe in God, I believe I'm a Christian, whatever. And then you could read the Bible for 2 seconds and right away it's like everything they do contradicts that. And so it's like, okay, you don't
Yeah.
believe that. Like
Right.
you say you believe that, but you don't.
Right.
And so that's where I started. Is like right now when I was thinking about what I was doing, my actions weren't aligning with what I said I believed in. So clearly I didn't actually believe in it. And so I thought, well, let me find something that I can actually believe in so that I'll actually act in the way that I want to. And so that's the first complaint I have with the modern day church, is that people who say the Christians aren't, and that's like literally you could wipe out 99% of people right away from that. And then the remaining 1% who like really do believe all the stuff that the church tells them, the church has modified a lot of what Jesus has said over the years, and the Bible itself has been modified and edited over many centuries to the point where it's hard to say exactly, like so much of the modern day church is based on what Paul wrote in the New Testament as opposed to what Jesus said. You know, it's like Jesus is the guy who like rose up from the dead.
Right.
I think we should listen to him more than Paul. So
Right.
that's the
Right.
church.
That's good. That's
You have an objection to this, Ezra. I know you do, because
It
you
sounds-
voiced it to me before.
Yeah.
And so I
I've objected to a lot of things.
Articulate
What are
it
you
for me.
speaking of? Which
Well, I mean,
you said I've done. What are you thinking of?
you know, like what issue do you have with what I just said?
Nothing. That's what you.
But I've told you.
No, I agree. Christianity is very like lost right now. There's a lot of different opinions that are in it, and it just seems like a big mash of like what to believe and what not to believe, and what comes from the Bible and what doesn't, and it's just. So I agree with that part. What are you thinking?
Well, because you voiced this to me before though. It's like you tell me like, you know, I don't know if I can completely buy into that. So like, what part of it don't you?
I mean, you just said a lot right there. I don't know what you want me to buy into.
I don't know. I kind of.
Because I don't remember speaking. Like, what are you specifically speaking that I was against?
I don't know, but like you tell me all that, like you say it right now, like yeah, you don't believe everything that comes out of my mouth.
There's a lot of stuff you say
That you don't believe. So like what? Like tell me what?
Religion. I was born or Christian, specifically Catholic. Went to Catholic school. I think a lot of the stuff is over the top. I believe I don't go to church, and I'll go to church if I'm not against going, but as long as me personally, I believe in God, obviously, Jesus, all that, right? But I don't think you need to go to church for that, and a lot of people like shame people for that. That's one of the things. I really need to find my way in religion. Because I'm not like a super religious person right now. I feel like I could be, but I don't.
And
I haven't looked much in.
What you just said, I'm a very firm believer of that. Is like as a kid, I always believed that if you like didn't go to church every week, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
It's just not how it
And
works.
that's the issue. That's the issue behind this whole thing is that, like, being more religious and following more of the doctrine and practicing more of the tradition, that's not gonna do anything for you. At least from the perspective of making your life better now.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's not a very uplifting message that
Right.
that the church tells you, which is you better do everything right. If not, you're gonna burn in hell by a God who loves you very, very much.
Right.
He's gonna cast you in hell. You're gonna
Yeah.
burn for eternity. Like, I don't think that's not a very positive story. I think, and you can tell a lot better one, and the church could tell a better one if they weren't so obsessed with keeping people in their congregation, which is listen to the words of Jesus Christ, and you can make your life better today, and you can accomplish great things, and that's what I think. It's way more about living, doing the best in your time here on earth in the present moment than it could ever be about living the right way so that you can go to heaven when you die. That's my opinion.
Right. You're not saying much.
I have no idea what to say.
Yeah,
right now.
you
I'm just
have no.
listening.
I was gonna say you have no feelings about this topic. But yeah, that's all I had to say. Was like growing up. Was always pushed, and I don't believe that either. I believe that if you, whatever religion you follow, if you have a connection with that God, you believe in it. I pray pretty often. I wouldn't say every day, but I think I'm a pretty religious person, but I don't go to church every week. So I think that's a good point.
And praying is one of the things that the church definitely got right, because there's a lot of studies on prayer that shows that people who pray are generally more or less anxious, I should say, and more satisfied with life.
Yeah.
And so I would think that along the same lines as meditation. But when you do those types of things, you're asking your mind questions. Even if let's say there's an omnipotent God who can hear you and he considers whether or not he wants to answer your prayer.
Right.
That's fine. But even if that's not true, you're consciously bringing things into the attention of your subconscious, and so it'll reflect a change on your life down the road, because subconsciously, the subconscious, man, people don't ever give it enough respect.
Oh yeah.
Like, the number one thing I would recommend anyone who's trying to get their life in order is start thinking about what you've been repressing or lying to yourself about or not thinking about in the past few years, because that's the subconscious, and that's going to exert a control over you, and you're just going to say that that's fate or that's destiny or that's just the way things are going for you. Like, no, it's not.
Right.
We have a lot more control over ourselves than we think we do.
Right.
We just need to bring it into the light.
Right.
Do you meditate?
I do. Yeah.
That's
How often?
that's the next thing I want to bring up.
Not as much as I should. I'd say probably once a week.
And how did you get into that?
Buddhism.
Right. So what do you follow? Is there something?
Is there like a routine?
Yeah,
or
like-
something?
Generally speaking, I would I'll put on some sort of music. It'll either be a Buddhist chant, a little mantra, or it'll be some sort of frequency. Yeah. And then I'll sit up cross-legged, type of deal. I won't do this with my hands because I don't know. That's like yoga or Zen or something. But I'm not that. And then it's really all about just focusing on your breathing. They say feel the air going in and out of your nose. That's the only part of your body you want to feel. And then I'll go up my body, relaxing every single muscle. And then I just the whole time it's breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, and then you usually get in a state where meditation is weird because you're trying to silence your thoughts, but that's never gonna happen. They're gonna keep shooting through,
Yeah.
and so you kind of have to reach a point where you just kind of see them going around and you don't really pay any attention to them. And once you reach that state, it's 5 minutes of pure bliss, and then you back out, and then you're completely wiped.
So how long does that last? Like
Probably a
that routine?
15 to 20 minute type of deal, I'd say.
Yeah. Didn't
Recently,
you?
yeah.
Yeah.
Recently at the lake,
Yeah.
we're at Beringer T, one of our friends that we've had for years. It was me, Becker and Al came up to Gartese Lake. Normally, me and Al are normally up there for 4th of July weekend. Great time, great lake, it's packed. So we're starting off, first day we got there, right? Or was it the... No, we got there at night.
At night, and then the next
And then the first morning we were there, like, yo, let's have a great time, let's go on the jet ski. But it can only seat 3 people. And so Al's the only person that's not on it. Because he was 30 minutes late, so that's why we picked him. And we come back, a great time with jet ski, we're fired up for the weekend. This dude's literally on the back of the boat, just, like, he literally was doing this.
Yeah, I was doing this at that
with
time.
his,
That happens
the,
naturally
like,
sometimes.
humming music, and then, dude had his Tao Te Ching book.
Oh, well, they don't know what the Tao Te Ching is.
You gotta get into that, man. So this dude's full spiritual mode, and it just shocked me, because I've never seen Al, like, actually meditate. Like, I know he spoke of it, but we're at a lake,
It's
fired up, and he's over here
It's
meditating.
an interesting choice, but I bet you had a great weekend after that.
Oh, great weekend.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a good
Yeah,
start.
it was a lot of fun. I'll explain what the Tao Te Ching is really quick. It's essentially the Bible equivalent for the religion of Taoism, which originated in China many millennia ago even, by a man named Lao Tzu. And the story goes that at this time the Chinese Empire had just collapsed, and so they were in a warring states period, as it's called. And everyone in China was like, okay, we need to think of a religion really quick that's going to unify all of China. And so what ended up winning was Confucianism. But before then, Taoism, they gave that a try. And basically Lao Tzu was a minister in the old empire, and he was a Taoist, even though he never told anyone about it. But everyone kind of knew, like, this guy, he's enlightened, this guy's special. And in the warring states period, he decides he's going to ride west on a donkey and never return. And at the last gateway, until he opens up into West China, a guard like stops him and says, like, I know who you are, you need to write all of this down. And so thus Lao Tzu sat down and quickly penned the Tao Te Ching, which I'd recommend it to anyone. It's like a 75 chapter book, but the chapters are literally just like 1-page little poems basically.
Right.
And in it, he lays out his philosophy for Taoism, and Taoism is like the most let it go, be natural, go with the flow type of philosophy, and it's really, really good. It's really, really wonderful, because if you feel like you're anxious about things, or you have a fear of death, or a fear of social anxiety, whatever, read it and look at the notes on it, and look at the people who've talked about it, because that's like you'll completely just see it all wash away.
Yeah.
Because it's such a genius type of idea, where, like, instead of trying to change things and control things, if you just like let go of your worry and let go of your thoughts, you have a built-in state of satisfaction at all times. And so I had read a little bit of that at the time before I started meditating on the boat side, and that kind of had my mind prepped right.
Right.
This dude, the entire weekend, still 4th of July, would just pull out, and he's like, Chapter 16, page 54.
I could recite
And then-
you chapter 16 right now.
Please do. No, seriously, name one off right now, just to
Yeah.
give him an example.
Chapter 16. Empty yourself of everything. Let the mind become still. The 10,000 things rise and fall while the self watches their return. They return. Returning to the source is the way of nature. The way of nature is unchanging. Knowing constancy is insight. Not knowing constancy leads to disaster. Knowing constancy, you will be open-minded. Being open-minded, you will have an open heart. Being open-hearted, you will act royally. Being royal, you will attain the divine. Being divine, you will be at one with the Tao. The Tao is eternal. And though the body dies, the Tao will never pass away. Now, I should mention at this time...
That's fucking
I
insane.
I should mention at this time the Tao is kind of like that's the God in Taoism, but it's not actually a God. It's more like it's just a force. It's the force of nature,
Like Star Wars?
that overwhelms all things.
Oh.
No.
God, like, how the fuck do you just be like, Chapter 16, you're not even reading it, you're just like...
He just knows it.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I meditate on that all the time, because that's, I think, in my opinion,
Specifically
that's
chapter-
the
yeah.
best
So-
verse in the book.
Go ahead.
I have a question. What do you think happens after you die?
Oh shit! Hang on. No, before I have a question about the book. So, like, that is obviously like your favorite chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So can you read that over and over again, or do you read it in order? Can you just flip wherever when you're meditating, or do you read it in order?
When I meditate, that's usually just on that one verse, because
Okay.
a lot of the other ones are a little more muddy because
Okay.
they say like the entirety of the book is filled with contradiction,
Yeah.
and that's kind of that, in my opinion, points it towards a higher truth, because I think that the truth of how we should live in this world is contradictory. I think it goes against logic and rationale. And so most of them, like, I can't exactly get into that mindset with, but with that passage, you could, I mean, just as I was saying it, you can see exactly, like that's like a playbook, like, you
Yeah.
know, what you should do in a moment in which you feel like you're getting overwhelmed.
Right.
Empty yourself of everything.
Right.
Be still. And then it kind of goes on about, you know, how you can attain, like, when he talks about being eternal, right, with the Tao, and this is an idea that is reflected in every single Eastern religion. And that's the idea of living presently. And when people say live presently, like, it's not like live in the moment. It means like become consciously aware of the fact that yourself is being created through the stimuli that you're interacting with, and detach from that process so that you can be an observer in your own body.
Okay.
And when you do that, you act in such a way that is in complete and total unity with the rest of the universe. And that type of action, it feels meaningful. And Jordan Peterson always says, "What is meaning?" Because obviously that's like you know, the big question when people say, "How should I live my life?" Most of them don't ever get there, and that's why they just chase pleasure all day, and then they live terrible, sucky lives and die.
Right.
But when you ask yourself what's meaningful, that's meaning is the feeling that you're in the right place at the right time. And when you have this understanding, this unit of awareness, and when you have this understanding of what it means to live presently, you're always in that mindset where you understand that what you're doing is meaningful, and what you're doing, it's rising above the pain that is so prevalent in the modern world.
Okay. Right. All right.
You want to answer my question yet?
Yeah. So let's.
So what happens to you after you die? I mean, first of all, I should preface this with how in the world could I know? You know, there's no fucking way I know.
Yeah.
But I think first and foremost, here's what like makes me, you know, I'm not a big drug guy. I don't like drugs. I'm not big on them because I want to try to attain transcendental states naturally, right? But I mean, there's some crazy stories, man, about like DMT and about psilocybin, and it's like if I could have an experience like that in my actual body without taking any chemicals, that would definitely make me reconsider what I think about like the soul, you know, and the consciousness. Because as of now, I've accepted that death could be the end of the story. I've accepted that, you know, when I die, I'm done, and I think that's still okay. But I could see this consciousness plane that I've been referring to, you know, like the total, this type of God that exists around us and within us. I could see that kind of pushing us further in a different kind of way. And it's almost like a more sophisticated version of reincarnation, which is, I don't believe in reincarnation, but I think I understand what they were getting at, the Buddhists and the Hindus, which was that, like, since we're all manifestations of the universe, we are all a part of the universe that kind of springs up. Alan Watts said this. I was listening to a lecture of his the other day, and he was saying, like, you know, the theory that the Big Bang, you know, the universe was created in
It's a great
explosion.
show. It's a great show.
Right. Well, not much.
Yes.
It's
Not
kind
good.
of, it's pretty bad.
It's pretty trash.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Wow.
but so, like, the universe is in a constant state of expansion, right? But it's not only expanding through space; it's also expanding through time. And so, if you view the Big Bang as a regular explosion, think about how a bomb blows up. We're the flames on the very fringe of that right now. We're the bomb exploding out into the future, and so we're like the little wisps of fire that suddenly appear and disappear, right? But we're all still a part of the same thing, and so even though our little tail might be short-lived, we're gonna re-emerge further down the line as an extension of the universe again. So that's kind of how I could view it, like, you know, maybe even though Alex Birmingham won't exist after I die, and I'll never wake up in some other place or in some other body and be like, oh, like I've lived before. But maybe we're all the universe knowing itself anyway, and maybe even though I die, the universe will still wake up and look at itself again in a different form, and in that way I will still live on. So.
Wow. That's a deep
Yeah.
answer that I've never heard to
Yeah.
that question, but that's
Yeah, I mean, I thought about this forever. There was, years ago, I had a lot of death anxiety because how could you not? Kind of sucks that we're gonna die.
yeah.
But it took me a long time to try to come to terms with it. But I think at this point I can say that I really have, and it's a very liberating feeling.
I guess I want to ask, because you said about DMT and those experiences, if you could have something without chemicals, how do you feel about like dreams, lucid dreams? Like that's deep
This is
into the
this is
mind.
something that I've done over the past few years.
Yeah.
As I it's periodic. Right now I'm not doing it. I need to start doing it again.
Mhm.
But my sleep schedule is a little too messed up. I don't get enough hours to get into REM all the time.
Mhm.
But yes, I have for a long time had a fascination with dreaming, with
Right.
trying to lucid dream,
Mhm.
which I've done successfully once.
Okay.
And then further astral projection, which that for me, I watched a video maybe 2 years ago of this Buddhist monk who was doing like a live stream, kind of like this room, and like it's funny, he's in these Buddhist like robes or whatever, and like he's got a little headset on though, like he's answering questions from his 15 followers,
That's awesome.
and so like someone asks him like, have you ever astral projected? And he talked about the experience he had, so I'll tell you that story right now, and it's
Alright.
like the coolest story I've ever heard. So he says, like, I was just like a 16-year-old kid, trying to deal with the suffering of life, and so I was up in my room meditating. And his particular preference for meditation was he would sit upright, close his eyes, and he'd imagine that he was on a boat swaying back and forth, right? Which I do need to try this because it sounds like it'd be pretty good. And so he's swaying back and forth side to side, but he says, like, for whatever reason, on this particular day, he decided that he wanted to go back and forth on the boat. So he'd be forward, back, back. And he said he reached such a state of focus that he starts going back, forth, and then up and over and around and around and around. And so now his head is spinning. And what happens is his mind is spinning so hard that he says it slips right out of his body.
Wow.
And that's astral projection. That's the separation of the soul and the physical body. And so he says, like, he tumbles out of his body and like gets a hold of himself. He's like, whoa, this is crazy. And so he says what he does is he drifts downstairs and he sees his brother, and his brother is pouring a bowl of cereal, and he smashes the bowl of cereal, falls on the ground, milk everywhere, and he's like, oh, that's interesting. Floats back up to his body, reconnects, goes downstairs, his brother pouring the milk, picks up the bowl, drops
Oh,
it,
wow.
smashes on the ground.
Oh wow.
And so, and this guy, look, I don't think he had any reason to lie about this. Why would he lie about this? He's just a Buddhist monk. And so what's so crazy about that story to me is not only is this guy traveling through space in this astral projection, he's traveling through time.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, that's a whole can of worms. I mean, that'll make you think for a little bit.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, and so that's my goal, is I want to astral project eventually.
Wow.
But there's a danger in astral projection.
What is the danger? Dying?
No, but beings.
What is it? Beans?
Beings.
Beings like from the back, like from the
Like-
back room,
Like
beings?
interdimensional beings.
like that will kill you.
So is
They'll
this
trap
ti-
you in space prison for 1,000 years.
So
Look, so have you ever listened to Joe Rogan of course you have, Alex Jones on Joe Rogan?
Oh my god.
Alex Jones is a nutball.
Oh, yeah.
But when he gets talking about DMT, I think he might be hitting a few things, all right? Because people from all over the world report these experiences. They take DMT, they go to a city of gold in the center of the universe, and they interact with these gray mechanical elf demons. Okay? Okay? And these are people who have no knowledge of what they're getting themselves into, and they say, like, saw this mechanical elf, and they bargain with the people, but you don't want to talk to those things because they're demons, and they won't camp you in space prison for 1,000 years, and you'll come back to your body and you've lived 1,000,000 lives, and that's a dangerous thing. And so when you're floating around beyond your body, you've opened it up to the rest of the world in a dangerous way.
Sounds like Minecraft.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like that's. So,
Okay.
So yeah, I've known you spoke a lot about psychedelics, and you're like big into like, whoa, these are crazy.
Yeah. And by the way, in the next 15 years, psychedelics will emerge as the primary treatment for depression in America. The next 15 to 20 years.
I can see
That's a
that.
prediction.
First off, I have a question. So how do you, these lucid dreams and all of these things, what's the process of doing this?
There's a couple. The ones that I know of are called mild and wild, which are those are acronyms, by the way. Wild is a waking version of lucid dreaming. Mild is a sleep version.
Okay.
And so what you do, the way that I've been informed how you do it is go to bed, get yourself a solid sleep schedule, circadian rhythm in good form. And once you start dreaming, because you're getting 8 hours of sleep, you're getting REM, when you wake up, right away dream journal. Write down all your dreams. Because and I've done that over the past few years, and it's definitely proven that will make your dreams more vivid. You'll get more of them and you'll remember more of them. And so then at this point, once you think, okay, my dreams are pretty vivid, I'm dreaming every night, and I can remember them, you set an alarm about halfway through the night, or maybe 5-6 hours of sleep into the night. You wake up, you go pee or something, you write down any dreams you had, and then you lay down, and now you're ready to lucid dream. Because now you're going to re-enter REM sleep.
Right.
But your mind, you can still keep it just active enough to the point where you can understand that you're dreaming.
Right.
And so you repeat something in your head constantly. You said, I'm going to lucid dream. 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 Literally, that you have to keep that in your head, because if you lose it, then you might start dreaming, and then you're going to wake up and like, oh shit, I dreamt and I didn't know it.
Yeah.
So you got to keep remembering, I'm going to lucid dream. I'm going to lucid dream. I'm going to lucid dream. And then you kind of just drift into this state where all of a sudden, like, you're starting to see things in your head, and you're like, okay, like, I'm dreaming, I'm in control of this. And the other way that this works is by keeping some idea in the real world, something on you that lets you know that you are in the real world. And so for people, I think they've always said this is wristbands. So like for 5 times a day, they'll smack their wristband on them, and so that'll remind them you're awake right now. You're awake right now. And so then when you're in your dream, subconsciously that's been implanted in you, and so you look down and you're like, there's nothing on my wrist. I'm asleep right now. And then you can start controlling the dream. So I forget actually the experience I had when I did this. I think it was maybe a year ago. I don't really remember much about it because I wasn't fully lucid. But I could tell you about my sleep paralysis, because that was the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. People who are prone to sleep paralysis, I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous of that, because that's one step before astral projection. Because you have, and I felt it because I finally had it a few months ago. It's a buzzing feeling over the entirety of your body, and you can separate that buzzing feeling from you, and that's how you astral project. That's how you get your consciousness out of your body. And so when I had sleep paralysis, it was sweet. And they always talk about a sleep paralysis demon, right? Well, this was like 10 in the morning, and so light was coming through, and so like there's no shadow demons that your brain can trick you with. But so what it was this like ball of light that was making this droning sound, and it was whipping around. It's going brown, 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 and I'm like, what in the world? But I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, this is fine though, and then it like jump scared me. Like it got right up in my face, and then I wasn't very scared though, because I kind of knew what was going on. I knew I was in sleep paralysis, and I knew it was awesome. And so I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then I woke up. But like that, so I couldn't really tell you whether or not that drone, that light, if that's like, do I think that's another form of consciousness? I don't know. It could be. It could also just be some strange kicking of neurons in my brain as it tries to wake the rest of my body up. So there's no way of knowing. But
You said it was a big sun?
it was like a ball of light. Yeah, like a drone.
Yeah, a drone.
Yeah.
You're getting into Carl Jung, so eventually you'll be able to tell me how that's an archetype. Yeah, that's order. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the Heavenly Father.
Al, for the audience, Al's giving me a lot of videos, podcasts, whatever.
Yeah, I send Ezra all my stuff. My Jordan Peterson, my Carl Jung, my Dostoevsky, my Buddhist stuff too.
I'm not nearly as educated on a lot of this stuff, clearly, but
He's
actually
good.
am interested in stuff that he gets into.
It's nice to listen to.
Yeah.
It definitely opens your mind
Yeah.
up. Because
yeah.
I remember, I don't know when it was, but like a year, maybe 2 years ago, I watched like several videos on lucid dreaming. I wanted to try it. I've never tried it because, like you said, I have a shitty sleep schedule. It takes effort, you know, you can't just do it. But I've never heard about, like, obviously sleep paralysis and the demons, like, that's complicated, but what's the
Astral projection.
Yeah, astral projection. I've never really heard anything about that.
Yeah,
Which is,
that's pretty nutty
It's
stuff.
in Doctor Strange.
that's what I was gonna say.
It
Is
is
it
in
an
Doctor
Endgame or Endgame when he pushes the Hulk out?
Yeah, that's that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And so yeah, it's often had that type of association with like the Eastern mystics, but at least in the reading and research that I've done on the Eastern side of philosophy, I haven't seen anything about that. But I'm not really even delving into the religious side of all that much anyway, and that
Right.
stuff goes pretty crazy. I mean, there's some pretty wild stories and all that. So
For sure.
I feel like I just had to look at TED Talk.
Oh yeah.
You've been
And you've been
I haven't been
quiet.
listening. This is
Yeah,
about me.
just listening.
I don't know.
sorry, if you ever have anything to jump in about it, you know, please.
I don't. My mind isn't even like wrapped around this yet.
I feel like I had a couple of questions. The one was time travel. Do you believe in time travel? Do you believe it's possible?
Einstein's theory of relativity tells us that time travel into the future is it's very possible, and more than that, it's inevitable.
Right.
You know, because as we travel through space, we do travel through time as well.
Right.
But if the faster you go, the quicker time passes. That's a fundamental idea in relativity. And so, like, literally, like, if someone took a rocket ship and flew it super, super fast, you know, around the moon and back, you know, they'd be younger than everyone else.
Right.
And less time would have passed for them than for the other people, which is like, you know, that'll really make your brain hurt if you think about it for too long.
Yeah.
But going into the past, we can only do in a few ways, none of which are in the traditional idea of, like, actually, you know, transporting yourself back there. But we change the past in a couple of ways. The first way is psychologically. If you're looking at a memory, the brain automatically has skimmed certain details out of that experience and forgets others. Like, you'll never recover the exact way in which you experienced that moment.
Right.
And so in that way, your brain alters the past, because how you remember things, for all intents and purposes, is how they actually happened. Because you are the center of the universe. That's what. Well, you gotta, you know, it's egocentric, but, like, it's literally true, because if we look out with our telescope, we see the observable universe is 13.8 billion light years wide.
Right.
And that's because that's how far we can see.
Right.
So, like, the further we go towards the edge of that, the further we're looking into the past. But the point remains that for you, you're the same way. As Earth looks out in the universe, you look out to the rest of the world. And so you have a circle around you of the actual world, and it's only perceived through your eyes. So, you know, there's certain light frequencies we can't see. There's certain sound frequencies we can't hear.
Right.
If we could see the universe as it actually was, it wouldn't even make sense. Like, you know, our brain would probably, like, explode from confusion. It'd literally be so overwhelmed. And that's exactly what people say when they go on these hallucinogenic trips, is they're like, I finally saw the universe for the first time, how it actually was. You break through that subjective layer that gets mapped onto the objective world through perception,
Right.
and you tear through that and you see what's actually underneath, and it just blows your nuts up, because, like, what even is that? Like, there's no way of making any sense out of that. That's why our brains have evolved over millions of years to just take in what we can, because if we took in any more, then we'd have no idea what to do with ourselves. You know, the brain makes a very the whole point of the brain is to make as much information as possible irrelevant. You want to be focused on as little amount of things as possible, because our consciousness is like a scanner. We're constantly just looking around. We're almost sending signals back to the universe as the universe sends signals back to us, and so we can only take in so much at one time, and that's why as the brain evolves in terms of consciousness, we're going to only get more conscious as the future goes. And, you know, in 1,000 years, human beings will be a little more tuned in to the reality of life than we are now, assuming that we make it that far.
Okay. So, as you said that, assuming we make it that far,
Yeah.
do you believe that the sun is whatever 4.8
No, that's a
billion?
while away. The sun
Right.
will eventually get big and it'll consume us.
Right.
but
So
that's
we
fine.
have this Earth has an inevitable death.
Mhm.
Do you think that this society and civilization on this Earth will make it there? And do you think that that inevitable death of that sun and this planet will be the death of the society, or do you think we'll be gone by then?
By the time, if humanity's still around, by the time that happens, we will be over the entire solar system and more,
Right.
without a doubt, without
Right.
a doubt. I don't know whether or not we'll get there, because it's kind of funny when you start like thinking about time. It's laughable how short a year is in the grand
Oh,
scheme of things.
Yes.
Like 5 generations ago, America didn't even exist. Or like 6 or 7, whatever. The point stands that like even 2,000 years ago, that's a blink of the eye in terms of the cosmic scale.
Right.
And it's like nothing has actually happened yet. If humanity could last another 2,000 years and then blow themselves up in a nuclear war, and the universe would never even known that we're there.
Right.
We were barely a little blot on a planet that
Right.
orbited one star. So, it's going to take a lot of work for us to actually make it all the way. And right now, we're still so stupid and so primitive that, we have a lot. We need to, right now, reel it in to the point where technology has accelerated past our consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Technology has exceeded the brain's capacity. And so if we don't reel it in soon, then our misuse of technology will be the downfall of humanity. And so we need to, very, very, very soon, we need to figure out how the hell we're going to deal with all that. If not, we'll probably all kill each other.
Right.
This makes me feel so small. Like we're just
That's-
this world.
Yeah.
I've told you the Rumi quote before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not a drop in the ocean. You're the ocean in one drop. That
Wow.
I tell myself that probably once a day, because like you gotta like. He also says stop acting so small. You're the universe in ecstatic motion. Like you are a manifestation of all of it.
Yeah.
You. There's no boundary between you and everything else, which means you, if you really cared to look, you'd understand that you're completely one with the rest of this place, and you can take your natural place in it, and that will put you at peace. So maybe I have a little bit of an ego because of it, but I constantly think about just how awesome I am, and the fact that it's so cool that I exist. Like, it's so badass.
Right. It's a good way to live life.
Right. Oh yeah. Make you happier.
Yeah.
Make you more content, more fulfilled.
One of the things with Taoism, that's one of the main things that I like that you talk about. How personally when I started not caring about things, you enjoy life so much more,
Right,
and
right.
you just
And that they translated that into Western thought with Stoicism from the Roman emperors a couple centuries ago. That's pretty good too. That's pretty good. If I would, for the audience who they're like, oh my God, Alex, you're changing my life. I'd start with Stoics. I'd start with the Roman Stoics. They'll tell you what it takes to control your thoughts and emotions so that you can live a more content life. And it's what's the Serenity Prayer in AA? I hate that it's associated with AA because it's so good. But every time you say it, it's like, oh, former alcoholic. But it's like, give me, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot control, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
That's literally brilliant. That in its own self is basically what you could do with a philosophy for the rest of your life.
Right.
And because that's really what it comes down to, is if you don't like something, the first thing you could try to do is you could try to change it. Then you figure out pretty fast that the world's really big and you're pretty small, so you can't do much about it. And so then you accept it, and then you're at peace.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty cool way to do it.
Right.
And that's also that's not a very natural segue. I'll wait a little bit. I want to talk about death a little more, but I'm gonna wait on it.
So we'll come back around to death. Anything you want to ask about,
No.
Liam?
No.
You just
No, I'm good.
I feel like there's a lot of things that I thought of, but obviously you're speaking we're very wide right now.
Yeah.
we're very
God.
I'm sweating.
I'm kind of hot too. Is there any extra water? I went through this thing a while ago.
Yeah.
You gonna make a water run?
Yeah, we will. Come right back. And we're back. Now we're back. Water has arrived, and we got some questions from some of our loyal fans on Instagram. If you'd like to go ahead.
Do you want me to ask mine or no? Is that like
You
a...
can, no, you can
No, let's skip that.
That's
Like,
fine.
go to Tyler's.
I have a good
Oh,
question.
okay. Finley, Tyler Finley. What was it like coaching against your former team, the Electric Whales?
Did I ever coach against the Electric Whales?
Yeah, you did. Freshman year.
Freshman year? Really?
Kicked their ass in the championship.
Yeah. They were kind of like I felt like that team didn't represent the legacy of what the Electric Whales actually meant.
Yeah.
So I had no problem thoroughly dismantling them.
That
en route
was-
to the beginning of the greatest head coaching career of all time.
That was the
No
rise of the
comments.
Nighthawks.
Yeah.
Consistent second place for them.
Ouch.
You can actually, do you have another one?
Yeah. How does Buddha's dick taste in your mouth?
Holy shit.
It's just like it's classless. It's like really.
Well,
Let's go on to Mr. Micah Shepard.
Micah Shepard had a question.
Great.
If there's any way to make the world a better place, how would you go at it?
I mean, I think that when you bring up ideas like the ones I've been talking about today, I think at a certain level everyone can resonate with them. Everyone can know kind of what you're saying. But a lot of people enjoy instead to be stubborn and intentionally stupid, and so I don't think that like the type of message that I preach could reach the masses with any type of efficiency. And that's not like, I'm not trying to sound elitist, but like people, they can be pretty dumb if they want to be.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people want to be. And so if I were to change the world, it probably wouldn't happen on a philosophical level very effectively. So I'd probably say politically. I just, the entire country, become president and reinstate nuclear power, everywhere. How much I love nuclear power.
Do we want to go on political?
I can
Like,
talk
these-
about politics.
Let's wait.
Not
Let's
like
wait.
controversial. I'm just saying he
I
ran.
want to talk about nuclear power now. That's another really good topic.
Michael Schellenberger. That's the name. That's the name that all people who care about nuclear power, which I'm sure is absolutely no one. That's the name you should go look up right now if you want to learn more about nuclear power. He's brilliant, but yeah, like there's some statistics I could give you on hand, but I just don't know. I feel like at that point it might get a little too like
Sure,
stuffy.
sure. But the one thing that I've definitely heard you say before, and it's like pretty common, is that all power will come from nuclear. Like that should be a main source in the future.
Yeah, hopefully. God.
Right.
I mean, if we had any common sense, we'd already be doing it.
Could be now, yeah.
Yeah.
But, so we want to run into politics a little bit.
Sure. I'm just saying because he ran for president in our 6 hour.
He did.
And he won.
He did very well.
Congratulations, Alex.
He did very well.
You were my campaign?
Manager or something.
No, you weren't that. You weren't that high.
What was
up.
that? I don't know. Campaign something.
I think you were my.
Media something.
Yeah, media affairs relation director or something like that.
So
yeah.
Just
You did a great. You did a great job.
I
You
took
did a
good
great
pictures,
job.
yeah.
Yeah, you took great pictures. Yep. Yeah, I talked. Yeah, hopefully, most people saw my debate. I'd imagine. I thought that went pretty well.
Oh, it did. Oh, it did.
God.
I guess I don't know. What?
This look he always gives me. He's always.
I
He
don't
gives
know
that
how to,
look
I don't know
he's
how to react to
eyeing it up.
whatever you say.
I feel that too sometimes.
I get it.
It's
What?
deep. That you don't know how to react to what he's saying.
Oh, no, I don't at all.
He's just fucking staring at me, talking about my mind, and I'm like, "What?
Yeah.
Don't take over my
I'm
body."
in there. I'm in there.
I don't know, like, what we can ask about politics, because, like, something I was gonna say is, how do you feel about the two-party system?
Ugh.
Go away.
That I mean that should explain. It's such a terrible system that's brought so much unnecessary strife
Right.
to the current state of American politics. So yeah, I'll never be Republican or Democrat. I'll just vote independent for the rest of my life, even though I might vote Republican or Democratic candidates. I'll never classify into a party because that's just not.
Right.
The way we should approach problems in politics is clearly with a mind that's trying to be as unobjective as possible, or objective as possible, and unbiased. And the second that you have to conform to a certain list of party ideologies, it's like, okay, well, you're not really saying what you think anymore. and that's obviously why people drive so far apart.
Right.
Do we want to ask him questions about specific things?
Such as.
Like global warming,
Okay,
gun
good.
control.
Yeah, good. I'd say no.
Yeah.
I'd say.
You
it's
know, I'm
probably-
not an expert in most of those things. I know climate pretty well, but that's about it. Michael Schellenberger, you know, he just tells me everything and I listen.
I don't know what else to ask him.
You haven't asked a damn thing. So.
I have asked things earlier. I just once you started talking about like astral projection, I just lost it. I was just like, okay.
That's where you blacked out.
I need to get more into that stuff. I feel like
It's definitely mind-boggling.
Yeah.
It's super interesting.
It's great to think about, you know. That's like that's how I do a pretty good job of kind of just enjoying myself in silence or like away from other people. And obviously I love hanging out with people. I love going to parties, whatever. But you know, when I'm not
What?
when I'm not doing that, you know, I have a lot of fun just thinking about stuff, because when you really stop to think about things, then it gets pretty weird pretty fast.
Whoa. Psychedelics, we're talking about those. I really, it's some of these stories are insane. How like
Yeah.
people would literally live an entire other life in
Yeah.
that small amount of time that they're actually like
Right.
on it.
Yeah, it's
Right.
like big time dilation.
How does
Yeah.
that even? I don't even know how that works, and how that would affect somebody.
Well,
after
it
that would
makes
be insane.
yeah. I don't even know how you'd live after it, but it makes
Yeah.
sense. It makes sense how, if you're gonna transcend space, then you're definitely gonna transcend time as well, because you know Einstein told us that space time is one metric. You know, the universe, you could back away from all of it and it'd be like a big block of the entire universe flat, and then every single second of the universe from start to end, if there is a start or end point.
Have you guys heard of the Mad Bee honey?
The mad bee
Mad
honey.
You
Is
know?
it like mad cow disease?
No, it won't like kill you, but you took too much, I'm sure. But it's somewhere.
Go finish, but after this, I was thinking like there's something I've been wanting to say. It was back on that Alex Jones thing I was talking about, and DMT and the Mayans. So we're okay,
Yeah.
keep going.
I haven't watched a lot of Joe Rogan recently, and one of the parts they were talking about Mad Bee honey, and it'll just be on these like crazy like mountains and like trees and stuff where people literally risk their lives to get it, and they can sell for so much, and it's legal there, but you'll just get like the craziest high. I don't remember. I need to look back in the details, but I never like have seen it where like bees have really like given mentally fucking things.
So that's a great segue.
Yeah.
So nature, you know,
Yeah.
the most bizarre thing about all these psychedelics is that they come from nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we have there's these toads in southwest United States and Mexico that on the backs of their scales secrete a toxin that has very strong amounts of DMT in it. DMT, of course, is dimethyltrioxide. I don't know how to say it, but it's a very strong psychedelic drug that will literally transport you into a different realm. So you know it's considerably powerful.
Yeah.
And it's on the back of these toads, right? And so that's kind of funny. You know, what's it doing there? Who knows? But at some point, some stupid cave Mayan, a couple thousand years ago, figured out that like you could smoke that stuff, and that shit would get you high, and you'd go somewhere else and you'd communicate with these beings, right? And so there's a theory that the reason that the Mayans had such a deep understanding of the calendar, you know, the Mayan calendar they talk about, and they knew a lot of stuff about like the positions of stars and the moon and the cycle of all this. They knew, you know, maybe more than they should have. And they also were a culture that were obsessed with ritual sacrifice, you know, not to the extent of the Aztecs, but they killed plenty of people.
Yeah.
And there's not that many corners of the world that have practiced human sacrifice. You know, like from the early on, the Jews, they were like, no, we're not going to kill humans. We're just going to kill goats. We're going to kill that, you know. And then different places around there agreed. But over with the Mayans and the Aztecs, they were thinking, no, we'll kill people. We'll spill blood. And so the theory behind all this was that perhaps when these Mayan priests are smoking this DMT that's found in the back of these toads, they travel to the city gold at the center of the universe, and they communicate with these dangerous mechanical elves. And the elves, they'll give you a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, and they only want one thing in return, and that's human blood. And you know, so maybe that, because we knew that all these sacrifices were religious in nature, but perhaps the religion was a little more, you know, had some more truth to it than we might have thought. Maybe they really did have a pretty solid reason for doing it, and they just didn't really care about the fact that it was kind of evil to kill people in order to obtain knowledge. But I'm not even going to start with the Alex Jones stuff, but he talks about like the modern day elites who do this, and like, I don't know, there's no way of knowing if it's true, but it's pretty funny.
Most controversial person ever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Even respecting it is probably going to give you a lot of teaching.
Yeah.
Go into quantum a little bit, if you'd like to talk about that.
Yeah. So I was just thinking, like, you asked me the question traveling into the past,
Right.
and I told you the first way we do it, which
Right.
is psychologically.
Yep.
The second way we do it is a little more complicated, and so I have to start with particle wave duality.
Okay.
Do any of you know what that is?
No.
No, you don't.
No.
No, Liam.
No.
Okay. So light travels as both a wave. You know what waves are, right? They go up and down, yeah, like sound.
Stupid.
But also as a particle, like electron. They call it a photon. Photon is a particle of light.
You stop staring at Liam the same time when you're.
Well,
I'm
I
staring
think-
at him.
Yeah, I know. I think he
I'm
needs
trying
it
to
the most.
concentrate.
I've
Why?
been moving around. I
He's
think.
right, yeah.
Yeah. Look at Ezra now.
No, don't want this particular thing.
Okay, fine.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
I like it. Keep going.
Alright.
Go ahead.
Okay. So we know we know that light travels as both a wave and a particle. That's an important distinction that has been experimentally proven in quantum mechanics, and that's like one of those contradictory truths that shouldn't be possible, but it is, and that's one of the ideas that makes me think that like contradiction is the key to truth in this life. That's like a philosophical idea I have. Regardless, so we know that light travels as both a wave and a particle. So when you are looking, like let's say you're looking up at the night sky, and your eye catches a very faint star way up there. It's like, oh, you just noticed that your eyes adjusted to it, and they caught just one photon of light from that star. It's been traveling 14 billion years. Not that long. Maybe let's say 7 billion years. That light's been trying to reach its way over to you. It's probably a little shorter since we can't see that far just with the naked eye. But so we see that light, and there's this like important idea in physics. It's like that light never would have been emitted if it had not been for the fact that it was going to enter your eye 7 million years later. And so in that way, and it's because of the fact that even though, you know, if you went back to the time in which the star emitted that light, it's a wave. If you treat it as a particle, in quantum mechanics, we can't actually observe quantum things that happen because the scale is so small that sending a photon at something will actually knock it out of place. And so that's Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, in case you wanted to know. We can't look at things on a quantum level because they're literally too small for light to actually reach without affecting the result of the experiment. And in the same way, this photon of light, it only enters your eye because the fact that your eye was going to be there. And so that's one of the other ways that we affect the past in this indirect roundabout kind of way. That, like, look,
What the fuck?
I know I've said a lot of like trippy stuff maybe today, but that's like the one thing that I don't even understand in the slightest bit. But
Right.
I just heard it.
Right. If we can pause again really quick. My fucking computer's about to die. I gotta go get a charger.
Sure.
So I apologize.
Knock yourself out.
But I feel like that's a good time to segue, and we can segue into something else when we get back.
Yeah, let's do it.
And we're back again. And we got 3 more questions.
Yeah.
Live questions.
Parker just sent this in. Parker Marsh sent this in like 5 minutes ago. This is more of a serious one, so I'll ask this one first. He asked, well, I guess not serious in his context, but he asked, how has Buddha changed your life?
You know, this is good actually because I've been talking about Buddhism and I haven't even talked about the Four Noble Truths.
Oh my
Oh.
god.
Which is like, how have I not?
How?
Like people are just thinking like, oh, this Buddhist idiot, like what the fuck is he saying? No, the Four Noble Truths are like the reason I'm Buddhist because they're so genius. So the Buddha, he was a prince in his early life, real person, honestly, just like Jesus was. And so he was a prince in his life, and his father kept him in a walled garden away from all the suffering of the world, because a priest told him when he was born that he was either going to grow up to be the greatest prince in all, or the greatest ruler in all of India, or a very powerful religious figure. And so the father was like, well, I'm a king, I want you to be a king, so I'm going to keep you away from all evil so that you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to go soul searching. And so for the first 17 years of his life, he grows up in this walled garden, this paradise, where everything is given for him. There's no sickness, no death, no disease. And finally, his curiosity is just compelling him, I need to go out and see the rest of the world. And so he tells his dad this, and his dad sets up a parade for him to travel into the streets. And along the parade route, he makes it completely perfect. All the poor people, the ugly ones, all of them, gets them away so that the Buddha can have a nice, easy, his name was Siddhartha Gautama, can have a nice, easy stroll through town. But when he's there, he happens to notice an old man walking. And he turns to his driver and he says, what's the deal with this guy? And his driver says, well, that guy's old. He gets old just like all other humans do. The Buddha's like, you say all other humans, you mean me too. I'm going to get old? The guy says, yeah. And so he goes back, and for 6 months he's shut away because he just can't believe the fact that he's going to age. And then he goes back out there 6 months again for another parade because he wants to know more. And he sees a sick man. He's coughing, he's throwing up, he's doing something. He looks terrible. And he asks his driver, what's the deal with this guy? And the guy's like, he's sick. He has disease. Many humans can fall prey to disease. There's no way of controlling it. It's like, wait, you mean I could get sick as well? And he says, yeah. Once again, 6 months, comes back out, and finally he sees a funeral procession. His father did a really terrible job of making the streets clean because he sees a funeral procession, and he's like, what's the deal with that guy? Why isn't he moving? And his driver says, he's dead. You'll die too. And so that's it for the Buddha. He's like, okay, I got to go do some soul searching and figure this shit out. And so he goes and lives in the mountains with the ascetics. And the ascetics are people that they starve themselves. They try to breathe as little as possible. They're of the belief that you literally you need to have nothing at all if you want to try to reach this state in which you are at peace with yourself. And so he's starving himself, and he realizes this kind of sucks too. I'm not having fun. I just really want to eat. And so what he does is he goes and he sits himself under a tree, and he says, I'm not going to move from this tree until I understand the truth of life. And he's sitting under this tree, and he's I will die before I move from this tree. And it is under that tree in which the Buddha becomes enlightened. Siddhartha Gautama becomes the Buddha, which means the enlightened one. And that's because he all of a sudden had the realization and the inspiration of the Four Noble Truths. The first noble truth is that all life is suffering. This, people don't accept that as much as they should. They kind of try to act like everything's okay, or I can just keep doing this and eventually get better. No, life is suffering. And here's why. The second noble truth, the root cause of suffering is desire. We want things, we don't get them, so we suffer. And that exists on an even bigger level than just in the moment type of desires. That's an even bigger, that's long term. You desire certain things even subconsciously, and because of it, when those expectations aren't fulfilled, you feel less than yourself, and so you suffer. And so here's the third noble truth, and my favorite, which is that because suffering is a root cause, or the root cause of suffering, rather, is desire, by limiting or eradicating our desires, we can alleviate suffering. And so that was the idea that got me hooked, that's pretty good, because I'd rather not suffer, and so, let's try this out. And so I did, for a few weeks. And the way in which you try to limit your desire is the fourth noble truth, which is the path to enlightenment or nirvana is the Noble Eightfold Path. That's 8 things that are right action, right speech, right mindfulness, those types of ideas where if you do those on a daily basis, then you will become more and more enlightened until eventually you just click. And so I did that for about 2 weeks, and it was crazy. It's honestly, at that point, this was a few months ago, and it's been those were the best moments of my life. Is I'd be out there working on the golf course, right? And it's not great work. It's early in the morning. I'm a little tired. I'm a little worn out, and I can't stop smiling though, and I can't stop laughing to myself because I'm got this strange thing going on, and that has been the best feeling of my life, and that was the closest I've gotten at this point to enlightenment. And so I realized, this guy, he is spot on. And when people ask me about Buddhism, and they like to make jokes about it because it's funny, but I say I'm I'm a Buddhist because Buddhism is literally true, in that you could say psychologically and from a perspective of the world, since we know that we can only receive so much information from the world, so the self doesn't really exist, what we perceive as reality is our perception mapping onto the objective world. We can never actually see the objective world, we only see our perception of it. We have control over the entirety of the universe because we can control our perception.
Right.
And so when I kind of had this realization, and that means that if our perception is in a state of constant gratitude as opposed to constant wanting, in a constant place where I want this, I want that, I'm not getting it, I'm upset, if you're constantly just content and grateful for what you have, then you'll live completely carefree. You'll live completely happy. And so what was even the question? It was like, how is
Buddha
change your life?
Right.
That's how. I mean, the way in which I've had the realization that I can control the entirety of the universe,
Right.
and I can live as happy or as sad or as angry or as calm as I'd like
It's
to.
all up to you.
Right.
It's all up to you.
I'm glad that happened because I literally hadn't even talked about the Four Noble
I
Truths.
know,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
ridiculous.
Yeah, that's the fundamental basis of Buddhism.
Go to Parker's next question. 'Cause
He has another one, not as religion based, I guess, but advice to your younger self.
which is a great one. It's
Advice to you yourself. I'll figure all this out sooner. Probably like I wasted a lot of my potential opportunities to have more fun and be happier in my earlier years because of the fact that I stuck so religiously to the doctrine of my life that wasn't working for me, So that's what, if things aren't working, then try to change them. That's what I'd say.
okay.
You want Chase's question?
I think we should. No, it's a good question. It's not like a
Yeah.
joke or anything, but I think we hop right into that because it kind of segues into less.
No, that's fine.
Complicated
yeah,
stuff.
I've said a lot of stuff that I'd like to say tonight. So
Yeah.
I feel good about what I've done.
So just before we do that, is there anything else you want to touch on? Any other topic? Just really quick.
I'm trying to think how I could talk about like Nietzsche and Dostoevsky, but I don't think I can fit them in. So
Don't even know what that means,
Yeah,
so we're just gonna-
they're two people, so we can move on.
Okay.
Okay.
So Chase saying this question.
This is something we talked about at graduation. Can you guess what he asked?
We talked about it. This
in a group.
Big circle.
Star Wars,
Rank the Star Wars movies.
11 of them, correct?
including the ones that including the ones that aren't part of the Skywalker saga.
Yes. All. We want all 11.
Okay. So
Let's go from worst to best.
worst to best.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so worst is The Last Jedi. Terrible, shitty movie that completely spat on everything that the fandom stood for, and everything that the lore meant.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Next, Rise of Skywalker. That movie was because obviously the issue is when you don't plan out a trilogy of movies, they're probably not going to do that well, and so
Right.
they had no idea where they actually wanted to take it. And so,
Right.
of course, when the 8th movie came along and screwed everything up, the 9th movie tried to fix it and just doubled down and made everything worse. So those two movies were terrible. Then the third to worst would probably be the Attack of the Clones.
Ouch.
Really?
Yeah, the Attack of the Clones, man, it's just I haven't seen it in a very long time, but from my memory, man, that movie could just drag and drag and drag.
Can I interrupt real quick? So I watched all 9 of the Skywalker saga movies over again, probably last month. Attack of the Clones
It's a lot.
actually is not bad.
Well,
Because
here's what I'm going to say, I'll get to this in a little bit, but The Phantom Menace, I think, is not even
Also
close to bad. I think The
not-
Phantom Menace is good.
It is good.
Yeah.
I watched it again and it's actually really
Yeah.
good.
it's a part of growing up because as a kid, you don't understand some of this dialogue.
Right.
You only
Yeah.
hear about lightsabers and
Right.
people,
Yeah,
And you're
the
like, oh.
politics of Star Wars are fascinating.
Liam
Yes.
Neeson in Phantom Menace is one of the better characters of
Qui-Gon's a great
yeah.
character, man. And Ewan McGregor, too. He carries the prequels
Yeah,
the
he
entire way
does.
through.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I love him.
yeah. That's what I
Okay,
wanna
so
say.
yeah, I think people will disagree there, but move on. What's better than?
I think you just need to watch it again.
Yeah.
I'll watch it again eventually. I'll probably like it more. But then after that, I'd probably put Solo. I thought that was just like an uninspired movie, and Harrison Ford
Money
is
grab.
on Solo.
Yeah,
you can't replace him.
Yeah.
The guy didn't do a terrible job, but you can't replace him.
Right.
Then after that, let's see. I got the original trilogy. I got the two prequels. I'll put Phantom Menace. put Phantom Menace, which at this point we're getting to the point where like, okay, these movies are pretty good.
They're
Like,
it's
like,
watchable.
yeah, like I enjoy watching these
Yes.
movies.
Okay.
So we go Phantom Menace. Above that, I will go with.
Still have The Force Awakens.
Oh, we still do have The Force Awakens.
I put
and
Phantom Menace over Force Awakens.
See, I'll put The Force Awakens over Phantom Menace because I actually love that movie.
Really?
It is
And
pretty.
It gets worse in retrospect now that you know what they did afterwards.
Right.
And obviously, it was kind of like a pretty lazy retelling of the fourth movie.
Yes.
But you know, I liked it. It was fun. You know.
And
it was-
and the build up to that movie,
Right, it
they
was
did everything
so cool.
correctly.
Yeah, so cool.
Just
And you know, I don't. Obviously, the existence of the Disney trilogy at all really ruined like the ending of the original. Like the whole point
Yes.
is like the Empire's wiped out. It's like, oh no, 30 years later, something that's just like them is back. Like
Right.
okay, that's
Right.
stupid. But
right.
whatever. But you know, I like that movie. And so above Force Awakens, then I will put the worst of the original trilogy, which would probably be Return of the Jedi. And Return of the Jedi was very good and very enjoyable.
That's the worst of the
But it's the
original.
worst of the original trilogy. No
That's a
doubt
tough
about it.
take. Let's let him
No
finish,
doubt about
and
it.
then we'll talk.
Because now I only have 3 left, right? I have.
No, you have.
You have
Oh,
four
I
left.
Rogue One. I Rogue
Four.
One as well, and
So you
Rogue
think-
One's gonna fit in right there because I thought Rogue One is
Excellent.
by
movie.
miles the best
It's-
movie that Disney's made
Yeah.
Yes.
in terms of Star Wars.
Yes.
Yeah. And then so now I have 3, and it's obviously you know these are all really good ones. I'm gonna go third. Empire,
Mm.
second. Revenge, first original.
Wow.
I love the original
Wow.
movie. It is literally, it is so archetypal. It is such a perfect hero's journey. It did so much world building. It was a beautiful movie. It's an emotional movie. I haven't seen it in too long, man. I love that movie.
I feel like I could have predicted that from miles
Yeah,
away.
I knew he was gonna say it because he said it at graduation. But
So, first of all, just breaking down the list, I think Attack of the Clones
should be
is
higher.
better than Phantom Menace.
No.
Don't agree with that.
Force Awakens is better than both of them.
Yeah. I can see that.
Solo belongs down somewhere around 8 or 9.
Yeah.
I think that, and I don't know if this is gonna go over well, but I think A New Hope is the worst out of the
I do
original.
too. I get what you're saying about world building and stuff. It bored the shit out of me.
Yeah.
It was really boring.
That's just not the right thing to say.
That's,
It's like,
that's what I thought. I thought the
I
first
kinda-
half of that movie is boring.
It is. It is. So my top 3 is got to be Revenge of the Sith, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. A New Hope comes in real close at 4. It's a great movie.
I have Rogue One over New Hope.
And that's where it's really close. But I don't put Rogue One over A New Hope.
No,
I
I think
think-
that's a little.
I think Rogue One's
That's heretical.
5.
I have it at 4.
Ezra, any comments on Star
I
Wars?
used to be a Star Wars nerd, and I
Yeah.
would be like big into it, but that's far past that time, and I don't really remember anything about it.
I remember watching A New Hope in your spare room upstairs.
Mhm.
The
one
first time I ever saw New Hope was in Mr. Zill's 7th grade English class. Did any of you guys have Mr. Zill?
That's
I had
a-
him for
Jesus,
Computer
I
or
hated him so
something.
much. I hated him so much. I had a nickname for him, but I don't think I'm gonna say it. It just.
I just want
Just say it.
I
I
don't-
Say it,
No.
say it.
This is like that fine line where like
Yeah.
Who's gonna tell me which is all that you said that?
it's not about Mr. Zill. I don't
It's
care.
just about him.
Yeah.
The fact that he said that.
Yeah,
I would
it's just
say.
like it's just you know.
I would say.
There's
that's
that certain line that everyone gets mad at you when you cross, and I would cross it there. So I'm not gonna do it.
All I was gonna say is I feel like 7th grade is really late to be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
first
gonna
time.
say, I
it was
thought-
like, well, because I grew up on Star Wars: The Clone Wars animated show, and
For
so
sure.
I was a prequel guy more than
Okay.
the originals because I thought those were just like old man movies.
Do you think that show's the best animated show of all time?
Oof.
It's got to be up there. I mean, what else?
Yeah, what else is
knocking it
there?
off? I
I don't know. Because
I liked a lot of. No, because they did too much in some of these shows, and so it made them bad. But yeah, I don't know. Total Drama Island. I love that.
You know what show I really love? Just 'cause I don't know why I love it so
Have
much.
you watched it?
Amazing World of Gumball.
That's
It's
a
one of
good
my
show.
favorite
I never
shows
liked that
ever.
much, no.
So growing up, were you guys?
Oh, regular show. That was my
Regular
favorite.
show.
My mom
I
loved that
yeah.
show.
Your mom. did.
Regular show.
Staff used to
that's
literally
a,
watch
That's a
it.
mature show, man.
It is.
They'll throw in.
It is.
they'll
My
throw
mom
in.
watched Good Luck Charlie every single week. whenever a new episode comes
Okay,
out.
so here's my question. Growing up, were you a Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, or Disney
No,
Channel
I
kid?
dabbled. You know,
I would
Yeah,
say
but-
I mainly watched Disney, but I liked Cartoon Network more.
Yeah, what's
I'd say I was probably more on Cartoon Network.
There you go.
Cartoon Network was probably
Cartoon
my one.
Network
But all
was
three,
mine.
I feel like.
Yeah,
they're-
you watch everything.
One
Yeah.
show I never liked was SpongeBob.
What?
I never
okay,
liked it.
the first
Okay.
3 seasons of SpongeBob are the best animated
They,
television.
I do like
Yes.
the beginning. Anything past that is just like
Anything pretty much after
it just
we're
is
born,
repeating.
mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Well, and, like the stuff they're putting out right now is like asinine.
I would
Oh, yeah.
I would watch like the Halloween episode from like 1999
Yes.
in my
Like-
Chrysler with the little movie screen
Yeah.
all the time.
No,
when I was a
legitimately,
kid.
like those first 3 seasons, like I'd still watch them today. I don't, but like I would, and I would enjoy them.
the Ashley and Slasher and all that
yeah,
stuff.
Like they're,
Oh my
yeah, they're
God.
so good.
Yeah, it was
That's
solid,
good.
but the rest of
That's
that
good
I just
television.
didn't.
It's
So I didn't
the
really like it
pizza
overall.
for you and me.
You guys, what, like, have you seen like the best of the best like regular TV shows? Like you've seen Breaking Bad, right?
Okay,
Yes,
so here we
I've seen
go.
that.
We've all seen Breaking Bad?
Everybody's seen
Yes.
Breaking Bad.
Great.
Better Call Saul. You guys into that?
I'm
I
not.
know
Dude,
Ezra is.
watch it.
I haven't
Dude,
watched
The
it.
6th season is like blowing my mind.
Okay.
It's the best TV I've ever seen, and I mean that. Like
You watched
it's so
Walking
good.
Dead?
No, never got into The Walking Dead.
I
Never
stopped
did Game of
after season
Thrones.
5
yeah.
because it got really bad.
I've dabbled around to it. I just can't watch
I
it.
never
There's
watched Game of
so
Thrones
much
either.
of it.
I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't think I want to even mess with that.
Yeah, I
I
would.
don't usually have that much time to watch TV, but
Johnny Test. That was a big one for me.
I've been listening.
Loved
We
I
didn't we
love
listen to
it.
the
Yes, we listened to the theme song.
theme song on the way to Myrtle Beach.
we were like 20 minutes out, and he was like, "Turn on the Johnny Test theme song." I was like, "All right, let's do
It's a
it."
good song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good.
Fairly Odd Parents.
I've been watching a few episodes. Like every other night, I was watching an episode. It's on
It was a
Netflix.
good show.
Me and Hayden were watching Zoe 101.
Dude, Zoe 101.
Actually,
I
good.
never got into
It's
it.
such
actually
a
good.
good
I did not think I'd like it.
show. We gotta watch a few more episodes tonight
because
because
too bad Zoe got knocked out. And you're here how the TV show ended, right?
Yeah.
You know, it was produced by, right?
good old Dan Schneider.
Dude, Dan Schneider has like a foot fetish, dude.
Yeah, he does. I can't believe what was the? I would watch a lot of Victorious when I was younger. I liked Victorious.
iCarly?
Not very much iCarly.
iCarly's
You guys like
I
the
used-
collab, the Victorious Icon?
That's a good.
That's a
absolutely,
great.
yeah.
I used to watch
episode.
so much iCarly that my mom would, if I asked her how much time until something like happened, she would say 3 iCarlys, which is an hour and a half. She literally would use that for everything. It was so weird.
That's fine.
Like
That's funny.
that's how my brain like.
That's funny.
3
God.
It's funny.
I don't know.
We
Yeah,
kind of
more-
dabble on TV shows a little bit.
You got any more questions?
So.
Let me check.
I thought
Do you
said-
guys regret anything?
Wow.
Must
Like-
you have? No.
I really don't regret
No, I
anything.
would-
It's tough to have regrets. It's tough to have regrets because
Sorry.
you can't go back and change anything.
Yeah.
I try to live with the mentality of like shit that happened.
Yeah,
What the
so
fuck
that
am I gonna
happens.
do about it?
You're in your current life
You
because of
move
what you
on.
did.
I do have regrets, but I won't say what they are.
And that's the thing. I feel like everybody has them, but they
Yeah.
like to hide them.
Yeah, I
Like
mean, I think like the only time I have regrets is when it's really recent. So like I'll think like, yeah, maybe I regret something in the last 2 weeks, but like I don't regret anything in the past.
I
17
think it's the
years.
opposite for me. I feel like
Really?
I don't really remember
You-
like
you-
stuff like that, but stuff like
You
1,
hold
2,
on.
3 years ago.
Because
Yeah.
for me, it's like the proximity of time, like how close I am to it happening. That like gives me the illusion that like I could change it. But once I realize like okay, it's done. Like there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
So then I can accept that. 'Cause,
I guess I have a hard time accepting that stuff.
Right.
Like I just let it eat at me constantly, and it's just like my
Yeah.
mentality. But
yeah,
whatever.
not
I
something
can't really
you
do
gotta
anything
work
about
through.
it. Yeah.
Only worry about the things you can control, like you just said.
It's that's the thing I want to say on death. Actually, I
Oh,
said I wanted
yeah.
one thing on death. So recently, I told you how I kind of came to terms with death, which I did, and like, I almost have like an appreciation for it now, which I never would have believed that I had an appreciation for like people dying, especially people I love. But what I realized is when people say like the meaning of death is, or what's the meaning of life, right? They say what's the meaning of life? I think the meaning of life is death, because what it does is it lets you know that time is infinitely valuable, and it lets you know that every single second you spend on Earth, out of the grand scheme of the entire picture, is infinitely small. So like it's literally so valuable that you should never dare to waste a single second in your entire life I think Charles Darwin said that. He's like,
Yeah,
he
I
who
like
wears
that.
the waste a single day clearly has not discovered the true nature of life. Because, yeah, I mean, you know, the fact that death is a thing that's going to happen to all of us, it's the counterpart to life, that is what gives life the feeling. Because if there wasn't non-existence, then how could there ever be existence in the first place, you know? That's kind of a Taoist thing. They go with the yin and the yang, is big in Taoism, and there's like the opposites, how, you know, you see the yin and the yang, they're the two things up on top of each other, but then there's the dot of the other in each of them, because that's kind of that's the idea that the division between those two things isn't quite as clear as you think it is. You know, they exist, they don't exist against each other, they exist because of each other, and that's almost comforting to me. So that was my death thing.
Definitely makes you appreciate life more.
Right.
Yeah. I think.
I don't know, man. I think we packed that in pretty well.
I think we're tuckered out.
Yeah.
My mind is hurting.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, it
You know,
was-
I saw you guys were back, and I said, you know what, let's give it a go. I think, you know, I could talk about some stuff. You have some fun.
I think it was successful.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun. Yeah.
Glad we did this. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you guys.
Name the things that you think people should do more research on.
Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, like I'd say Jordan Peterson is where I started for dudes, especially because he's kind of more about men. But you know, if you want to try to get your life together, Jordan Peterson is where I'd start. And then if you care about like sciencey type of stuff, Michael Schellenberger is good on that, and politics. He's the best guy in politics I know. And then if you're interested in philosophy, then I would look at Fyodor Dostoevsky, Friedrich Nietzsche, and the Buddha. Do Siddhartha
I was gonna say,
do
Buddha.
do Siddhartha Gautama. He'll show you some things.
Yeah.
And the Roman Stoics too, like Marcus Aurelius, him too. Yeah,
Very good.
those guys have done great things for me.
All right. So any closing statements from you guys besides that?
I feel like during school, I didn't care about education. Like, it was just I was there to get good grades.
Right.
But like, I'm actually like enjoying learning outside of school. Like actually doing your own research.
Yeah,
And
makes
that's
it
a
so
great
much
thing about
better.
college is like you can
Yeah.
take philosophy classes. You can take
And I
those
am,
type of,
yeah.
like those things. I hear from a lot of my siblings like those are the best classes they took in college. Were the ones that just like
A lot
make you think like about that
Yeah.
stuff on a consistent basis because you know what are you doing if you're gonna go around through life just going through the motions like no matter what your belief on life is, you should know that like it's not a great idea to waste it. So,
Right.
yeah, that's my closing statement.
All right. Thank you guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a good episode. We got an hour and a half. This is about where we.
That's what I wanted.
it's
I
about
wanted to
where
push
we-
it there. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's great.
it's about where we predicted.
All right.
That's what Chase's episode was.
Huh?
Chase's episode was an hour and a half.
Yes, it was.
I feel like a lot of people can learn stuff from this episode, or at least start branching out to certain things.
Yeah. That's
Evolving a lot as a person.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for having me on.
Make sure to like and subscribe and tune in every week for new videos.
Gang.